We're getting ready to start. Welcome to DDRC members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate times. It's loud.
If you're here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone at the podium, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. Ms. Sims Branham.
Here.
Ms. Gallo.
Here.
Mr. Greenberg. Ms. Jaco.
Here.
Mr. Ledecker.
Here.
Mr. McKenzie. Here. Mr. Salibi is not here. Mr. Shelton.
Here.
And Ms. Thomas.
Here.
We have quorum.
In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the DDRC or staff regarding the request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Under the regular portion of the agenda, 1410 Heights Street, request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Waverly Protection Area has been deferred, as has 2320 Preston Street, a request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area A.
The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Staff, will you please review the consent agenda?
Certainly. The first item is 1237 Gadsden Street, a request for design approval for an addition and exterior changes in the West Gervais Historic Commercial District. The next is 1420 Devonshire Drive, a request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill in the Forest Hills National Register Historic District. 1308, 1310, 1310 and a half Maple Street, a request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill in the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. And 1410 Heights Street, a request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Waverly Protection Area.
All right. Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like to have any item removed off the consent agenda?
I do have a question about the Gadsden Street property. The rendering shows the historic building and the addition is one sort of monotone white color, and I'm not sure if that's meant to be, it's going to be painted or...
Right, the existing building is painted. The existing building is painted, so therefore the rest of the building can be repainted as well as the addition. So we don't regulate paint color.
Understood. It looked from the existing photographs that it's a light sort of pink red brick.
It's a
There-
paint
this-
color.
Yeah, this view here.
Right, it's paint on the building.
Okay. I'm just struggling a little bit with the guideline that says any major alteration of the exterior appearance should be reviewed. And I'm not sure if this rises to a formal review or not.
You mean the whole project?
The project, yes.
It's typical for projects like this to be put on the consent agenda. The work on the existing building could have largely been approved at staff level, so the small addition on the left side of it is really the main reason that it's here, but it meets all of our guidelines, which is why it's on the
Yeah, I
consent agenda.
understand there's a lot of other buildings in the Vista that have the same sort of white painted brick, and I just wasn't sure that what was actually being proposed here was, there's actually paint on the walls now? It's okay. All
Existing
right.
paint, right.
Okay.
I promise it's painted.
Okay. Any other staff concerns on the consent agenda? All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Because if not, once we do the consent agenda, the item will not be discussed. So anybody, any comments? All right. All right, do I have a motion, a second, to accept the consent agenda, subject to all the conditions contained in, and as well as the April minutes and the corrected March minutes?
I move to accept the consent agenda, subject to all conditions contained in the case summaries, as well as the April minutes and the March minutes correction.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
And Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we'll now move forward to the regular agenda.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. The next case, this is the urban design case number 1. The project number is EMA 2025-0010, because this is a request for recommendation to amend the zoning map to the area currently within the city center overlay district and the Inavista overlay district to remove those overlays and replace with a new single overlay district, the downtown Columbia overlay district, and to apply the proposed downtown design guidelines to the properties within that district. There is one modification to the boundary, which I wanted to point out. This is the northern boundary you can see on the map right there. This is the Elmwood and Randolph cemeteries and some other adjacent parcels up in that northeast corner. Those have landmark status, so there just wasn't a reason to leave those in the city center. But otherwise, the overall boundary remains the same. Just as a little bit of a background before to understand how we got here. I know some of you all are familiar with this process, but this is the first time it's been on your agenda as an actual item. Staff began working with the consultant team in February of 2024 on the Downtown Columbia Strategic Plan by engaging the community to discern a refreshed vision for the quality of the built environment downtown. As part of their review, the team examined the many changes that have occurred throughout the historic grid since the adoption of the City Center Master Plan and Overlay District, which has been in place since 1998, and the Inavista Master Plan and Overlay District in place since 2009. Throughout the process, the team heard from over 1,100 voices in the community. The Downtown Strategic Plan document was organized into 6 big ideas generated from the major themes that were distilled from public input. One of the primary purposes for initiating the strategic planning process was to develop a single streamlined set of guidelines for the downtown geography to replace the city center and the Inavista guidelines with a focus on the public realm. Of those 6 big ideas, idea number 6 is to streamline, adopt user and business-friendly design guidelines to protect downtown's long-term economic competitiveness and real estate value. So the basic just wanted to review really fast. The guideline document sets forth some objectives to emphasize the development's relationship with the public realm, prioritize, design, and promote design excellence, provide flexibility and generate a variety of potential design solutions and outcomes, improve the communication and participation among the development community, city staff, elected and appointed officials, and the public, and express and convey the interests of the community through well-written, clearly understood development and design guidelines. The guidelines also provide some guiding principles aimed not to restrict creative design, but to guide development and redevelopment to ensure it supports the vision for downtown Columbia's future success and economic vitality. And those are, and I'm not going to read through them all, but just the headers are: to be uniquely Columbia, to create comfortable streets and spaces, to reclaim space for pedestrians, and to connect people and places. So the design guidelines document, which was linked in your packet, and I know you guys have seen a draft of that before, is divided into 4 content sections: site planning, private realm, public realm, and signage. Each section or the subsections within contain clear statements of intent, which help provide flexibility in applying standards that are less prescriptive and value-based. The document also provides illustrations and photographs to assist in providing examples to illustrate the expectations of the guidelines. And I won't go through each section in detail, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions and expand on anything if necessary. Tristan's just clicking through some of the boards that we have for each section. Like the site planning section includes open space guidelines, parking facilities, fences and walls. The private realm section includes guidance on types of development frontages, basic building design principles, and pedestrian entries. The public realm, specifically the pedestrian realm, talks about the area between the building and the curb and provides specific guidance on the sidewalk zone, the frontage zone, the furnishing zone, and the parking lane or enhancement zone. And it also provides guidance on streetscape elements such as street trees and other streetscape elements. And then the signage section is really clear and tries to work out any conflicts that may have been with the Unified Development Ordinance. And then we have some process changes. One of those is to change the thresholds for which projects are reviewed at staff level versus which comes to the DDRC. Those are based more on the impact a development is likely to have on the public realm, and less, we've gotten rid of the monetary thresholds, which tend to be a little bit random. There were some zoning text amendments related to this overlay district, which we have gotten recommendations from Planning Commission last week, and those will also go to City Council. And one of those, like we've talked about in our work session, was splitting the DDRC into a historic and an urban design board. Those text amendments are not in the current set. We're going to try to get the plan and the guidelines and the overlay adopted, and if all that goes well, then we'll have another set of text amendments that'll kind of help us sort of get through those details. And we're looking at having this become effective in January of next year. So like I said, the Planning Commission recommended approval for the overlay district, the guidelines, and the associated text amendments last week, and we're scheduled to present to council at the zoning public hearing on June 17th. So our ordinance also requires the DDRC make a recommendation about the overlay district and the guidelines. So we are here to ask for a recommendation. Staff does find that the proposed guidelines represent the vision and goals of the downtown strategic plan, and we're seeking a positive recommendation from the DDRC to City Council for adoption. And that's all I've got, but if you have any questions, certainly happy to answer those.
I'll open it up for any questions of commissioners. Yeah, Commissioner Ledec?
I think the open houses you had, the document was a January 2025 draft, and what we have now, the watermark says April 2025. Can you tell me what changes may have been updated since the January draft?
Yes, it was mostly some little graphic changes, some typos. There wasn't a whole lot of content. I believe the 2 things that come to mind are there were some recommendations on the sign, freestanding sign heights. They had some recommendations based on the traffic the speed of roads, how tall a freestanding sign could be. I believe the first recommendation was roads that were 30 miles an hour. Right, we're going to allow for the taller signs, and the recommendation was to shift that to 35 miles an hour and higher. We're allowed for taller signs, so any street under 35 miles an hour would have the 4-foot limit on freestanding signs. Content-wise, I think we had some image changes, but that was pretty much it. There really wasn't a whole lot.
So officially, this is going to be a draft until the council approves it, or how does?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Kat? All right, thank you. Are we ready for a motion, Amy, here?
Unless the others,
Oh,
any other?
yeah, when you flipped so fast, I wasn't sure. Okay, all right. Would anybody from the public like to speak about these new guidelines? Has anybody signed up to speak on this? Okay. All right. All right, so with that, I will open the floor up for a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion. I recommend DDRC give a positive recommendation to the City Council of City of Columbia for adoption of the downtown design guidelines as presented.
I'll second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
And Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The second case on the regular agenda is for 1415, 1421, 1423 Main Street, 1104 Hampton Street, and 1400 Assembly Street. It's a request for a certificate of design approval for the construction of a new mixed-use development. This proposal is for the development of a roughly 725-unit mixed-use apartment complex with 1,470 spaces of parking in an attached parking structure. The apartment consists of both market rate and university student dormitory units. A proposed ground-level cafe space lines the Main Street frontage. At its highest point, the 26-story market rate residential tower sits at just over 290 feet tall. Just behind it, the student dormitory section of the residential building is 240 feet tall at 22 stories. The attached 11-story parking structure at the corner of Assembly Street and Hampton Street is just over 116 feet tall. The site is bounded by Main Street to the east, Hampton Street to the north, Assembly Street to the west, and Washington Street to the south. Please note that some of the updates to the garage design were submitted after the initial packet, so elevations and some renderings presented here do not represent the latest iteration of the garage. In section 5.2 of the guidelines on architectural style or theme, staff finds, so wedged between two office towers on a downtown block, the proposed residential structure with its 26 total stories is situated appropriately within its surrounding context. The residential component of the project consists of two distinct but conjoined masses, a more vertically oriented Main Street facing tower that contains market rate units and a more horizontally oriented, shown on the top here predominantly, student dormitory section with primary frontages on Washington Street and Assembly Street. The student dormitory section of the massing borrows from the language of the dormitory, the standard that sits across Assembly Street. Both the standard and this student dormitory section of the proposal are partially arranged as a U-shaped mass that sits atop a plinth. On the Main Street side of the site, the market rate tower is in close conversation with the neighboring office towers at 1401 Main and 1441 Main in its express verticality and in its helping facilitate a dialogue between publicly programmed ground level interior space with Main Street's pedestrian realm. On section 5.3 on building mass and organization, despite the heightened scale of the proposed structure, some efforts have been made to make the development more pedestrian scaled and oriented. The ground level of the residential structure's Washington and Assembly Street facades acts as a distinct human-scale layer within the development. Its series of double-height rectangular bays framed by tan brick serve the function that awnings typically do, and that they identify openings, provide coverings, and help distinguish the ground-level architecture from upper-story architecture. And section 5.3.5 on wall articulation, The tower component of the proposed development shares common horizontal elements with its neighboring structures, particularly 1441 Main Street. In both the existing and proposed building, a double-height curtain wall is recessed from the structural columns which align with the exterior-most surface of the facade. The open space formed by this gesture helps enliven the pedestrian realm adjacent to 1441 Main Street and is sure to do so in this proposed development. Variations in the depth of the exterior-most surface on the Washington and Assembly Street facades help to minimize the massive scale of those building faces. The corner at the western end of the Washington Street facade protrudes substantially from the building. This vertical component, clad largely in tan cementitious panels, relates back to the market rate tower on Main Street and provides a break to an otherwise very wide Washington Street facade. A similar gesture occurs further down along the Assembly Street facade at the corner where the proposed parking structure and student dormitory meet. Section 5.4.1 on setbacks. Staff finds the setbacks along the development's Main Street, Assembly Street, and Hampton Street frontages appropriate. The ground level facades of Main Street's market rate tower are staggered and set back between 11 and 50 feet from the property line. These generous setbacks help facilitate a continuous plaza that flows from the open space in front of 1441 Main to the north elevation of 1401, which is host to an existing E.J. Charles mural. A setback of roughly 8 feet from the Assembly Street property line provides space for landscaping immediately adjacent to the residential building's Assembly Street facade. Staff finds that the residential structure's current 0-foot setback along Washington Street might inhibit the installation of much-needed landscaping along that stretch of Washington Street. A setback similar to that along Assembly Street here would be appropriate to facilitate the same kind of planter beds at the base of the Washington Street facade near the corner of Assembly and Washington. Section 5.4.2 on street orientation. The building's 2 primary pedestrian entrances are located on the main and Assembly, the site's 2 major streets. Residents of the Market Rate Tower enter on Main Street, and university students access their dormitory units from an entry on Assembly Street. Both of these entrances are easily identifiable and oriented parallel to the streets they front onto. In section 5.5 on open spaces and private development, highly visible plazas encircle the ground level of the residential building's Main Street frontage. Looking over this open space will be a cafe that is accessible from Main Street. Cafe tables and chairs populate this space. The open space that runs along the southern face of the Market Rate Tower structure frames the existing mural on the north face of 1401 Main Street. Staff finds that this space should be continuously open and accessible to the public. On section 5.6 on landscaping, landscaping populates the various open spaces throughout the site. Shade trees line the Assembly Street frontage and sandwich, together with shrubs and ground cover inside planter beds that are placed along the base of the building facade, the sidewalk zone. This sidewalk zone will be made of newly poured concrete with a unique scoring pattern. A continuation of the Main Street pavers and paving pattern occurs along the Hampton Street sidewalk. The hardscaping within the plaza surrounding the ground floor of the Main Street frontage consists of linear pavers and scored concrete near the entrance to the cafe. While distinct from the Main Street pavers and paving pattern, this hardscaping adds subtle variety to the pedestrian realm. Shade trees, artificial turf, shrubs, and ground cover add richness to this open space. There's a need for additional landscaping along the pathway at the base of the facade that overlooks the existing City of Columbia surface parking lot from the west. Similarly, additional planter beds are needed along the base of the Washington Street facade nearest the corner, as I previously mentioned. The section on grillwork and metalwork and other details. A horizontal band that houses additional structured parking splits the ground floors of the residential structure from the upper stories. This band is clad in a perforated metal screen that adds richness and variety to the exterior of the building. Staff finds that a similar surface treatment is appropriate on the exterior of the structured parking facility. Ground level wall sconces and added depth to the upper story windows are needed. Section 5.7.2 on exterior walls and materials. Staff finds that this development's subdued material palette of predominantly glass, earth tone, cementitious panels, and metal panels appropriate for its downtown commercial location and neighboring modernist office buildings. Light brick cladding on the two lowest levels add a subtle texture and ornamentation to the project. Section 5.8 on the upper facade. Staff finds that the tan and gray cladding of the residential structures' upper stories are in conversation with the tan brick and dark metal panels of the ground level. The textures of the upper and lower facades are distinct but do not appear disconnected. Verticality is expressed in the arrangement of cladding on the upper stories. This helps prevent the faces of the residential building's upper stories from reading as a datum. Despite this, added articulation to the upper story windows is needed to add visual interest and depth. They currently appear flat, particularly along the recessed sections of the Washington and Assembly Street facades. Lastly, section 6.8 on parking facility, location, landscaping, and screening. The guidelines read, generally the parking required for each block should be contained within that block. Where parcels within a block are developed by different owners, the parking requirements of each development should be accommodated within its own parcel unless a cooperative parking plan is submitted at the time of the earliest development. Where possible, parking structures should be located within the block core with actively programmed building space fronting on all streets. Where location of parking within the block core is not feasible, parking structures should be located to the rear of the principal use building, with the principal use building oriented to front on the address street. The ground floor of the parking structure should be actively programmed on streets with an active commercial frontage. No parking structure frontage should be permitted on the city center's gateway, image, or pedestrian priority streets unless the structure's facade provides a compatible streetscape frontage and active programming on the ground floor. Any parking structure which is located adjacent to a street should be set back a minimum of 6 feet and a maximum of 10 feet from the sidewalk. This setback should be landscaped with trees, shrubs, and ground cover to soften views of the structure, provide visual interest, and establish a sense of human scale. Structured parking configured as a base-level podium supporting a high-rise tower should not be permitted. The architectural treatment of parking structures should be compatible in quality, form, materials, colors, and textures with the structures being served. Parking structure roof lines, which are visible from the street, should be level. Ramping should occur within the structure, or on the interior of the block where it is screened from the street. Staff comments. No serious efforts were made during the period of discussion with the City of Columbia planning staff to situate the structured parking component of this proposal within the block core. After it was determined that a rearrangement of the site was not feasible, attempts to incorporate actively programmed ground level spaces into the parking structure at the corner of Hampton Assembly Streets were met with resistance. The unoccupiable light boxes along the Hampton Street frontage presented in this proposal will display artwork in coordination with the Columbia Museum of Art. Ensuring that these are programmed and managed will be critical to the success of this facade treatment. At the request of staff, the design team continued the light boxes to wrap the corner at Assembly Street. This helps to provide visual interest for pedestrians at this highly visible corner. A roughly 6-foot-tall perforated metal screen that's in conversation with the metal screening above the ground floor of the residential structure runs along the length of the parking structure's Hampton and Assembly Street facades, immediately above the ground level. The screening also covers the entirety of the base of the Assembly Street and Hampton Street corner. Ramping that occurs along the Hampton Street face of the parking structure will be visible from the right-of-way. The perforated metal panels that are used to screen the structured parking in the residential tower have been continued around both the Assembly and the Hampton Street sides of the parking structure, in part to screen and mitigate the visible ramping, and to integrate the design of the parking structure with the building design, as recommended by the guidelines. The latest iteration of this parking structure includes a representative mural painted on the exterior of the corner stairwell at Assembly and Hampton. In conclusion, staff finds that the project substantially meets the design guidelines and recommends granting a certificate of design approval with the following conditions: to explore increasing the setback along the westernmost section of the Washington Street facade to accommodate the installation of additional landscaping similar to that along Assembly Street. Add landscaping along the wall face that overlooks the existing City of Columbia surface parking from the west. Ensure that ground level wall sconces are installed on all primary frontages. Coordinate with staff on the decorative articulation of upper story windows. Ensure that the open space that runs along the southern face of the Market Rate Tower is fully accessible to the public. Provide a programming plan for the light boxes along the parking garage frontage to ensure that these are utilized to engage the pedestrian realm. Coordinate with One Columbia for Arts and Culture on the mural at the corner of Assembly and Hampton presented here. Work with staff through the encroachment process to ensure that all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards. Signage must come back for a separate review, and any changes to the design or additional details that are developed be submitted to staff for review.
Is an applicant or anybody here to present?
The applicant and their team is here.
Right? Whoever plans to present, if you can come up and I'll swear you in before you start, that would be great. So come up and just, when you get settled, you can state your name.
Doug Titchener, Core Spaces.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you. And do you plan to speak as well? Yeah, why don't you come in? Will you state your name?
Ashwini Denoy.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us be here. We're very grateful. First, start by saying the conditions of approval that staff has recommended, we've reviewed in detail and agree with them. It's been a long time. We've come a long way in a very short period of time with staff and just open collaboration with both staff and management with the City of Columbia. It's been a really wonderful thing to kind of take where the project was to bring it to where it is today. I'll say, from our perspective, it's going to continue to accelerate the success of downtown Columbia, filling in this vacant parking, this surface parking lot that's been there for decades. Wouldn't have gotten there without that collaboration, and it's kind of been the key that's unlocked the development potential for the site. And so can't say thanks enough. I'd say, as Tristan mentioned, the site's not without challenges. It's not a rectangle. It's a T-shaped site, and very early on, one of the things with the site that we needed to figure out was a parking solution for the two existing offices that were there. That was part of why development hadn't occurred there for the decades that have been there. So in the way that we've laid out our site, we've efficiently designed the garage in a way that provides parking that would be adequate for both of those office buildings that exist there today, in addition to the 700 plus residences that will be coming online, providing a solution for every user that's going to be there. And I would just say that, we're very proud of that. We're proud of this project, and very excited to continue to move forward, and here to answer any questions you might have. I'll pass it on to Ashwini Denoy from our design team to present a little bit more. We also have some other members from our engineering team too, if questions arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I think between Tristan and Doug, they kind of covered a lot of my points, to be honest. But the project is I'm located in a site that's about 2.62 acres. Both are recently granted us the special exceptions to take us to about 725 units, and we're also providing about up to 1,600 spaces, 1,500 to 1,600 spaces. We're still working through that with the parking consultant. And we were able to multi-tier the tower to, kind of add to the skyline of City of Columbia, taking it up to 26-story, but under the 300 feet mark. And then this is going to be a one building in terms of code, but it's going to be predominantly type 1A, but the parking deck would be type 1B. Market rate lobby, as Tristan had mentioned, is off of Main Street. And then the student housing lobby is going to be off of Assembly Street. And as Doug and Tristan mentioned, this shape of the site presented a lot of challenges. So we had to kind of snugly fit in that parking deck at the corner of Assembly and Hampton and be able to accommodate those number of spaces that we had on our pro forma. We worked very closely with the city staff, and we plan to continue to work very closely to get the parking deck that not only enhances the pedestrian experience, but overall the aesthetic in the City of Columbia, while maintaining the ventilation requirements and the structural integrity required. It's going to be a precast deck, meaning exposed precast with partially covered perforated metal panels. And we believe that due to the concentrated parking, it should mitigate some of the traffic concerns by concentrating it in that tower. The residential facade, the intent of it was to kind of blend in with the skyline as best as we can while maintaining openness for the units and providing natural lighting, as much as possible to the units. We also intended for it to be a subdued colored palette that, very well articulates the verticality, at the same time kind of creating that base, middle, and tower portions. It's going to be brick at the base with metal accents, and the punched windows, the tall punched windows and the cementitious finish tower on top. The parking panels further kind of tie in some of the residential finish to the parking deck, and we plan to integrate a lot of art as mentioned in the conditions as well. That's all I have.
All right, let's see if any commissioners have any questions of the applicant. Anybody?
I have some,
ahead.
is the applicant done?
You're done presenting,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yes,
we're
great.
done. Yeah.
We'll open up for any questions or comments. Go ahead, yes.
Okay, thank you. And I will tell you, there was a lot of support for your project. We got a lot of letters in support. And it looks like it's going to be defining the skyline there. The big challenges I think you have is with the parking deck. And I'm sure you know that one of the most important public spaces in the city is Boyd Plaza, right across the street from you there at Main and Hampton. I was really intrigued by this perspective view. What do you call these vertical elements? Pilasters or what?
It's perforated metal panel, and it's just,
As an architectural element?
we're using it in a way where staggering it as an
Yeah.
architectural element to kind of create some design interest along each one of the facades on Hampton and Assembly Street.
So I appreciate the mural treatment of the stairwell there. Is this the latest rendition? You mentioned, Kirsten, that there was some new
is, yeah.
information that came in?
This is the latest, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I'm wondering if you're agreeable to doing more to mask the appearance of this parking deck. It's easily going to dwarf most commercial buildings on Assembly, and I know there's a lot of other ugly parking decks on Assembly, so this one would really stand out, and I'm wondering if there's something you could do with extending that mural treatment or possibly called the vertical elements or some other means to soften the appearance, because it's really going to be huge.
Yeah, so we're certainly willing to work with staff on the design of this. This has been the focal point in a lot of ways for our coordination with staff over the course of the past month and a half, 2 months or so. And what I'd say is our focus originally had been on the pedestrian experience along Assembly and also on Hampton Street, and to try to really make sure that experience is better than what it is today, right? And how we're doing that is reducing the number of curb cuts that exist there today. I think there's something like 3 on Assembly, maybe 2 or 3 that are currently there on Hampton Street. We're reducing those to just 2, which Ashwini has touched on. Enhancing the hardscape, bringing that all the way to the curb, so going beyond just the property line and taking it into the right of way, so you have some continuity in what's happening with the pavement and the landscaping in that area. The addition of the light boxes wrapping the corner, bringing the art in. I do think that there's probably some other ways to skin this garage that could do what you're saying. I think we can maintain the amount of material and then bring it in different ways up the side of that garage. I think where we got limited to was the amount of material that's there today, and if we condense it, it could look more dense. If you kind of spread it out a little bit, there's probably opportunities to do that. So that's something that we're willing to work with staff on.
Yeah, I'd really like to see some more masking of the structure at the higher levels of the deck. There's 1 or 2 elements that really got my attention, and I'm not sure all the
just add one more
drawings.
thing there. We're always cognizant as we continue to screen these garages of maintaining that 50% open air to not mechanically ventilate these garages. And the reason we don't want to do that is, 1, it's not as sustainable, first and foremost. Secondly, we start losing parking spaces in that garage, and this is a big garage, but every single space in there is accounted for as it exists today.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make sure that it's designed as efficiently as possible as we continue to build this.
Yeah, I'm not quibbling about the size of the garage per se, the number of spaces, but just the appearance and the mass.
Yeah.
It's going to dwarf, the county library across the street and everything else in that neighborhood. There was one, do you have the entire packet loaded on the deck here? There was a drawing, sheet C.1.0.
I don't have the whole packet included in this presentation, but which drawing was
There's
it?
a little sinuous element on Hampton Street shown on this drawing. Not that drawing.
I think that was
Oh,
an
that-
older
yeah.
version.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what it was.
you-
It doesn't appear on,
I believe that was an old landscaping plan that's
An
been
old one,
since
okay.
updated, yeah.
All right.
To what you're looking at here.
one other question. The table height seating, I don't think I've seen this before, and I'm wondering how's that going to work in this context?
Yeah, so there's a variety of things that we're trying to do along Assembly and on Hampton to, again, make what is a garage a more friendly place to be. I think there's a bus stop there too. So it was an opportunity to create another space for people that are walking there to feel safe, to linger, to have another opportunity to sit and wait for public transportation, but also just enhance that experience as you walk down Assembly. The table heights are exactly that. It's not intended for an individual to sit and be there for an extended period of time. It's there to go have a cup of coffee while you're waiting for a bus or do whatever you do, open your paper, open your phone, and kind of hang out for a brief period of time. We thought about a number of different pedestrian-friendly elements that kind of bring activity to that space. The light boxes being one of them, the table height seating. We're talking about bringing something like blue bikes back into that area or the equivalent of blue bikes in that zone to have kind of a bike share in that location too. So it was really to kind of make that corner feel better than what it does today, but then also kind of enhance the experience after a garage gets put at that particular corner.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason I'm sort of questioning this is right across the street, the library attracts a lot of homeless people, and they sit on the bench there, the knee wall. So I'm a little concerned that this might be another place. And that's one of the things I hear in my neighborhood a lot is, why are the homeless always here? So that may be something that's not intended that may actually happen.
Yeah,
So, well, thanks for.
thank you.
Commissioner, yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to applaud the team for filling in this area that really needed to be filled in for many, many years. And I think it's going to be a great asset to downtown Columbia, clearly for 1441 and for the city as a whole. I do agree with Mr. Ledecky about the garage kind of being this afterthought. I mean, you've done such a beautiful job on the building itself. And I understand that it costs more money to clad a garage in precast with thin-set brick or something of that nature, but this project just almost demands it. I mean, it is so prominent and so important for the first brand new garage we've done in Columbia in quite some time. I believe the Cannon garage might have been the last one. And it was intended, the city council asked for that garage to look like a building in downtown Columbia, not a garage. Now, that doesn't comply with the other garages from years past that are along Assembly Street, so I understand there's some older existing context. And I understand the attempt to create something unique with this metal panels or the perforated metal panels. But I don't know, and I know you have to meet a pro forma and all this, and I'm not trying to demolish the project, but I just feel like perhaps more detail. Is there any way you could look at cladding this with something other than the precast that has integrated to complement the residential tower?
We like this design, I'll start there, but we really like the perforated metal panel for the exact
I like
reason.
it.
For the exact reason you just said, is that it does have some continuity with the residential component of the building. So we were trying to pull those design elements down Assembly and up Hampton Street for that very reason. You know, we had another option that I don't think made it to prime time, which was where with these precast decks, you can put in some integrated
Integrate some color into the.
color and texture, which is another kind of way that you could do it without, you know, you avoid the 50% open air requirement for these garages. You can clad it in that way. And we like that option too, but kind of after coordination with staff, we landed on this one and felt like this was really a nice touch. Another thing that I think we've done is we pulled it up a level, so it was actually a level down, and we created sort of that, I don't know what the right word is here, you're gonna help me out. But the transition
Oh,
as
the sort of
the
gradation
panels
of
started,
the
yeah, the
panels,
panels started to sort of drip down from that tower element. So those are some things that we can do. So I hear what you're saying, and I think like as we continue to progress this, there's things where we can keep that same amount of material, but maybe design it in a way where it has that effect of where you're cladding it a little bit more. I think
If
that's.
I may just
yeah,
add to
go
it.
ahead.
So I think, you know, obviously, we try to integrate, as Doug mentioned, some of the residential elements to that. But we are limited because, as you know, mechanically ventilated garage are not the most sustainable way to, especially with having so many sites, you want it to be an open garage and be more sustainable. So keeping that in mind, and that's also providing some restrictions with how much of screening we can add. But we do intend to kind of massage this a little bit more to, as best as we can, make it a very aesthetic design that still looks really good, and then feels more integrated with the, so it doesn't look like a standard, like, you know.
So this isn't going to, I know that the sample that you have here says it's going to match the tonality of the student deck, but it looks pretty much like precast gray concrete in this rendering.
Yes, we can have color integrated with it as needed. There's a
Well, I
possibility.
think it
of that.
needs it,
Yeah,
is what I'm
we
saying.
can look at that.
Because
Yeah, that's
it's
definitely
very
a
stark,
possibility.
and it looks like the garages of 1950 that are all along Assembly Street.
Understood.
I'm just very disappointed because I think y'all have done a beautiful job on the building, and that's really where I'm coming from.
No, understood. I think we will be looking at integrating art and making it a lot more attractive than what we're seeing now. This is close to like
And
a
by the
good
way, I
start.
understand about an open garage. The Cannon one down the road is an open garage as
Gotcha,
well. It's-
gotcha.
So just, it can be done.
Yes, just a restricted amount of opening, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for applicant? Staff? Okay.
Just a quick comment and question. You said you had reviewed all the notes and have no issues. I saw one note about increasing the setback along Washington Street, and just in looking like you've got a very tightly designed project, is that making you lose any rooms, or is that hurting your pro forma?
We have to look at, I mean, I think that's something that we have to understand what that means a little bit more specifically. But yeah, anytime you start to set back, you have potential of eating into the number of rooms within that unit. And I think what we're trying to do, those units, as they exist today, are very efficiently designed. And I think that's where the living
Yeah.
rooms are located.
We have the living and the bedrooms facing the front, so there's going to be some challenges, but I think we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
And see.
Okay. I mean, just talking about the hierarchy, I would almost put the garage well above that and cede that point to add some money to the garage cladding.
All right, any other questions at the moment? Commissioners? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Did anyone from the public sign up to speak regarding this case? If you did, and did you sign in? Yeah, yes, please come on up. And even if you haven't signed in, you can still come up, we'll just get you to sign in when you come, yeah. Yeah, you can come up and get settled, and please state your name.
I'm Matt Kennel from the Main Street District.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And just try to get the microphone aimed as best you can towards you, I appreciate it. Thank
Okay, thank you. Are you ready? Okay. Dear DDRC commissioners, thank you for your work on this project. It really is a incredibly important project for downtown. I am speaking to you as a representative of the Main Street District, otherwise known as the City Center Partnership, to support the plans by Core Spaces for this project. This most impressive mixed-use commercial, market-rate housing, and private dormitory project will bring much-needed density and activity to the heart of the Main Street District. We know Core Spaces is an outstanding developer, having converted, even saving the old SCANA building into a quality student housing that has literally transformed Main Street. Through this quality of private development, we believe this project will provide an incredibly good option, not only for students, but for young professionals, which is needed in our community in a highly walkable and urban development. In fact, maybe the highest walkability part of our city. For these reasons and many others, we support this exciting development and urge the DDRC to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else from the public like to speak on the case? Yes, please come on up. Yes, please. Great. So you can state your name.
Walker Weaver.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm a student at the university and I've grown up in Columbia my entire life. And just in the past 5 or so years, I've seen the city completely start to transform itself with the Bull Street District, with things like the Standard, the Gateway project happening near the university campus. And I would just like to express my strong support for this project as a younger person in the city who may be looking to stay here after I graduate. I think this is really valuable for both downtown, but also for the culture. Columbia is trying to develop itself as a place for young professionals to stay here after they graduate from the university. And I think the fact that this is both student housing and housing for younger professionals is really valuable for the community. It also fills in one of the last major gaps along the Main Street corridor that has been empty for basically my entire life. And I think the developers' willingness to work with city staff and the community has really proven to be effective with preserving the mural visibility as well as keeping some green on the street. And I just think this would be really valuable for the city.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm a young professional that graduated from USC. I love that. That was great. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? All right. Unless there's any other questions of commissioners, to staff, or anybody at this point? Anything? Just making sure. All right. I will open it up to see if someone wants to make a motion here.
Okay, I'll make a motion, Madam Chair. I would like to recommend approval of the certificate for design approval for the City Center Development District for 1415, 1421, 1423 Main Street, 1104 Hampton Street, and 1400 Assembly Street, with the following conditions. 1, to explore increasing the setback along the westernmost section of Washington Street facade to accommodate the installation of additional landscaping similar to that along Assembly Street. Add landscaping along the wall face that overlooks the existing City of Columbia surface parking from the west. Ensure that ground-level wall sconces are installed on all primary frontages. Coordinate with staff on the decorative articulation of upper-story windows. Ensure that the open space that runs along the southern face of the Market Rate Tower is fully accessible to the public. Provide a programming plan for the light boxes along the parking garage frontage to ensure that they are utilized to engage the pedestrian realm. Coordinate with One Columbia for arts and culture on the mural at the corner of Assembly and Hampton. Work with staff through the encroachment process to ensure all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards. Signage must come back for a separate review. Any changes to the design or additional details that are developed are to be submitted to staff for review. And to review the garage facade with staff, all the materials on all levels for more compatibility with the apartment tower.
I'll second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
And Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next case.
You're okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right, we ready?
All right, so the next case, is 1130 Gladden Street, or TMS 11413-09-01. This is a vacant residential lot in the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District, and this is a request for a certificate of design approval for new construction. The proposal is for a one-story duplex, approximately 40 feet wide by 75 feet long. The proposed building has a front gable roof with hip front and back porch roofs.
Do you want me to try? Got it.
It's okay. The full-width front porch is proposed to include a central stair. Staff has recommended changes to the front porch proportions and the foundation material. Section 3 of the guidelines includes a lot of sections. I won't go through all of them, but I will talk through some of the sections where I'm recommending changes. For massing, the overall form is very simple and rectangular. However, the front porch is proposed to be full width and only 4 feet deep. Because of the width of the house, the equal length of the porch adds to the wide horizontal massing of the building. Staff recommends de-emphasizing the low horizontality of the front elevation by narrowing the porch to the central 4 bays of the building, stopping short of the windows closest to the corners of the facade. Additionally, the depth of the porch is disproportional to the house as a whole. Historic porches in the area range anywhere from 6 feet deep to 10 feet deep. The 4-foot depth of the proposed porch is too shallow and appears out of scale with the design and the surrounding buildings. Staff recommends adjusting the depth of the front porch to at least 6 feet to be in keeping with the guidelines. I'm clicking.
Just tell me when.
For sense of entry, the proposed front porch includes a central stair with doors to each unit centered on the wall of their associated units. Thus, the central stair does not lead immediately to the doors. Staff recommends emphasizing the entries by using 2 stairs, 1 to each door. Staff also recommends emphasizing the front porch more by separating the massing between the porch and the main mass of the building, as previously stated. For materials, textures, and details, staff finds that most of the proposed materials are in keeping with the district. However, the foundation is proposed to be clad in stucco. The surrounding buildings all use a brick, so staff is recommending to use a brick veneer at the foundation wall. So this shows the front facade and the side that will be most visible from the street since this is a corner lot. This is the proposed with the central stair. You can go to the next. Oop. And this is just a little mock-up showing the different proportions that could be used to de-emphasize the horizontality of the front elevation, as staff is recommending. So staff finds that the proposed new construction at 1130 Gladden Street, TMS 11413-09-01, is largely in keeping with Section 3 of the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District Design Guidelines, and recommends granting a certificate of design approval with the following conditions. The cement fiberboard siding will have a smooth texture and a 4 to 5 inch reveal. The proportion of the front porch will be altered so it is not full width and is at least 6 feet deep. The front porch will use 2 stairs, 1 to each door. Windows will be aluminum clad with trim around each window. The front door may be wood or fiberglass with final design approved by staff. The foundation will use brick veneer with concrete or brick stairs. Porch flooring may be tongue and groove or cement. Details of the parking area and fence to be approved by staff, and all other details deferred to staff. And there have been several letters sent in by the neighborhood addressing concerns about the overall massing, the length of the building. So we can discuss that as well.
Is the applicant here? Does the applicant speak? Hi, come on up. Hi, state your name, please.
Jerome Prezi.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes. I
Thank
do.
you.
Okay, just as she mentioned, first of all, thank you guys for having me. Basically, what we have done here is proposed a duplex, and as it relates to the size of the unit, in calculations, what we have on either side of this unit is 36 to 38% land usage, which is what we have on this particular unit. We have a design here that is designed to address parking where it's not off-street parking, which is a great concern in the area right now. But our parking is designed to be on-site and to be covered with a privacy fence and shrubs. I think there had been some concerns about the number of tenants for this unit, and I think it may have been thought of that it would be a high number. This unit is designed for young professionals and families. Typically with student housing, you will see baths designed with single sinks. This particular unit is designed with double sinks with master or owner suites. In addition to that, again, we want the parking to be on-site because there is an off-street parking issue there with a number of the units on either side. That's basically what we're proposing. We're certainly open to the suggestions that were made on the porch and go from there.
Any questions from the commissioners to the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. Did you give any consideration to, I know you want to have 2 units on the property, to breaking up the building? So there's an accessory dwelling in the back that did a site visit on this property. The house next to it has an accessory dwelling in the back, and that's very common for the Melrose Architectural District. So I didn't know if you've talked with the city about coming up with that design to reduce the size of the main building and pull that into some of the accessory dwelling.
I talked with the city about another unit there. It wasn't necessarily an accessory building. However, it was zoned that it could be a duplex. They would not have an additional building detached, is what I've been told. So that was explored, not necessarily in the form of 2 units, but in addition to the duplex. So I'm not sure if that zoning has changed, but that was not something that I was granted approval for. And the 1118 unit is a duplex and a detached unit, but that from my understanding, you can only have 2 units on the property.
Yeah, and it would be a zoning question if, because 2 single-family houses on one lot may not be allowed, which is why they often attach them as duplexes. So it may be allowed, but sometimes with certain zoning, it's not to have 2 buildings.
Is there any other questions? Do you have questions?
I guess, does the parking in the rear serves both units?
Yes. I'd like to add to that, the parking in the rear abuts a parking lot as well. It used to be a vacant lot, but I think Attorney's office has turned it into a parking lot as well. And it's kind of like a drive-through area, so it's in keeping with what's already there, basically. But it will serve both units. And again, we're anticipating, maybe 6 parking spaces back there, possibly more, but just getting it off the street is what we're looking to do because it's a problem now.
I guess I was getting at wondering if you could hide the fact that it's a duplex by removing one of the front doors from Gladden Street and having a side door maybe on Pickett and a rear door to the Pickett side unit, and then having the front door on Gladden serve the interior lot side, just kind of thinking about that.
You're saying that you wouldn't want 2 doors on
Could make this look more like.
on Gladden because 1118 has 2 doors as well. And
Yeah, it's not a requirement to do what I'm saying. I'm just.
yeah, I understand.
I think some of the concern from the letters we read from the community were just maybe about the character of what we're seeing in the drawings here, and that might be an idea of a way to increase it.
We have side entry on Pickett, and I've just learned from the city that we could cover that side entry, which will break the massing of the roof down some, or at least give it another gable on that side. So we do think that that could help some as well.
On the gable could help that. Do we have the elevation for Pickett Street?
We could also add some dormers perhaps on the roofing to, give it some more appeal.
I don't see too many dormers in the area.
I guess from my perspective, the Pickett side is the more concerning side to me of this building. It's very imposing to me. It's going to run, it's a corner lot. So it's going to run a big length. There's nothing to break it up. It seems to me the massing is pretty substantial from that side. I can't tell from the drawings how far that 75 feet is going to run, but the properties from across the street, from looking at it, it looks like it's going to run past the house at the corner, at the opposite corner, and actually come back into a little bit of the next property potentially. Then beyond that would be where the parking pad is. So to me, it's a very imposing massing on the Pickett side. It's hard to, I would like to see it broken up more.
I think one of the things we talked about possibly was removing the storage building, which would eliminate 8 feet in the rear on the Pickett side. Well, actually on both sides, but the Pickett side is what we're concerned with. That would reduce at least 8 feet of that on that particular side. In the rear of the property where the back porch is now, I think, storage building.
Do we have a full site plan showing what he's talking about?
You can see it in the floor plans in the packet. I'm not sure that I included a floor plan.
Sorry. See if anything else.
You might see it on the roof plan.
Is there a minimum roof pitch or requirement in the guidelines?
No, it just needs to be compatible.
I think one of the buildings, either on either side, is 55 feet long. If we reduce the 8-foot section, that would bring us, I think we have like 14 feet of porch space there now. That would reduce the building down to like 60 feet. if we don't cover the back porch and don't have the rear.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the shorter it gets, the better to fit the architectural design in the neighborhood. Like I said, the most common thing you see is, especially for like a one-story in that neighborhood, is they don't run this long typically. It is a large property, yes. That it's with this corner lot, it's running very long, and typically when in this neighborhood, if it's gonna run that big, you would typically see the building broken up with an accessory dwelling. Do you know the dimensions of the parking pad at this current time? I know they're not on the drawing. You got the dimensions of the backyard, but you don't have the dimensions of the parking pad?
Yes, it should be on that drawing. I think it's 56,
Oh, sorry.
50, yeah, right there. It's 59.
So, yeah, I guess from my perspective, it looks like that length is from the back of the house to the back of the property. Is that correct, the 59? So I didn't know if you had the dimensions of the parking pad itself.
Oh, the parking pad. We're basically just going to do
you're saying enter from Pickett.
roughly 50 feet of that. It's going to be 45, 50 feet of that is going to be the parking pad. Is what we're looking at.
It's almost like you'd have to pull back.
So essentially, with the lot being 150 feet long, you know, we essentially half the lot if we reduce the rear, to take the porch off the back, or at least that side view on Pickett, the rear of that building. The storage building is what I'm referring to on the back of the building.
Yeah, well, if you got rid of those, that would.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, what I would love to see is an exploration with zoning on what's possible here to see if this design can become more compatible with the neighborhood. You know, if it is possible to get an accessory dwelling where maybe the primary building is one unit, the accessory dwelling is a second unit, you achieve 2 units that way. I would love to see that. And some more exploration with the zoning around that, and then maybe that opens up options for the design of the building.
One concern with that is the 1118, that's what they have. The problem now is they don't have parking. They're using this parking lot to accommodate their parking because they're sandwiched, the parking spaces are sandwiched between 2 buildings. So they don't have adequate parking with those types of units. And so they spill over on the lot or on the streets, and that's part of the issue. That's why we designed the parking in the rear, but certainly it's something we can explore. That's just the issue that we currently see, and that's why this parking lot is being used for parking now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could achieve a parking pad in between an accessory dwelling and the primary building. You know, maybe it's not gonna be as big as, you know, a 50-foot pad, but you could achieve enough parking for 2 units there, and that would keep it more in line with the building next door. I think that would flow a lot better and address some of the neighborhood's concerns that we've gotten over email.
Just, we're the architects on the panel, so we're just sketching, so forgive me.
I love that.
Forgive me, but, you know, I think some of the concerns is just the kind of the simplicity of the form, lacking a little bit of detail and fearing that it's not meeting the historical context. So I think some changes to your roof plan could kind of allow you to keep the same form and give the breakup of the massing, which I'm happy to show you. But if you if you changed it from one simple single gable the whole way and maybe, you know, had a gable in the front that was perpendicular and a gable in the back running the same way and a connector between them, and then maybe had a gable for your porch that came off the front, just gives a little bit more articulation. Articulation does not require floor plan changes, and I think would certainly give you some interest on that Pickett Street side.
Certainly. Well, I'd love to see that, and I'd certainly be receptive to that.
We could, so
Sorry, I mean, staff, we were just discussing, like, is this something we should have a little design work session on? Y'all are, I know y'all are, hey, but there's all, we're all discussing it.
I'm
So,
sorry.
Like we were saying, is this something that maybe warrants a little design session with a subgroup that could help maybe come up with some better solutions, or what are you thinking over there? That's what we're thinking.
If y'all think that's necessary, then sure.
I
I mean, some other ways that
I would volunteer the 3 architects, of course, but.
2 of them at that.
I mean, I think there is a way to, and this doesn't work, to separate the massing a bit by taking the back portion of the house, basically where the master bedroom is, where that back door is, and setting it in a little bit. So then the continuous wall would just be the front 4 windows. And then the rest of it would act more like an addition, but on the back of the house, kind of inset a little bit. But that, along with maybe, an original recommendation I made to Jerome was to put those storage units in the center, so then each unit had a porch on the corner, so you're reading it as a porch rather than a continuous wall. So there are things like that
Yeah, I feel like
I
we've
like
had this
that.
challenge before with this. This looks kind of familiar, but
I like that approach, though,
yeah.
Bill.
Is your thought more that,
So
to
you
work
have
more
more
with staff to come
over
back
here.
with a better concept, or just trying to get staff's sense of where they feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to continue to work with the applicant. But if you, some
That's what
feedback
I'm
on what
thinking.
would
Okay.
be, what you would like to see.
All right, I'm just trying to get a sense of where we're all comfortable. Okay, all right. Is there any other questions of the applicant at this point? Yes, go ahead.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Or staff.
Rachel, working, if the applicant's willing to work with it, is zoning, exploring what zoning will actually allow there? You know, if they're trying to achieve 2 units and explore the zoning, is that something we can do as well? To see, hey, maybe there's an opportunity to potentially break it up and make it more like what we see in Melrose?
We can ask zoning, but like I said, sometimes you have to have more square footage on your lot to have more than one building. This lot is about 7,700 square feet, so it may be possible, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Okay. Put those items in the exploration box, okay. All right, any other questions of applicant or staff? Okay, all right, thank you. Next would be public comment. Is anybody who has signed up and like to speak on this case, please come on up. Hello, hi.
Hi, my name is Laura Wynn. I'm an owner in the neighborhood, and I'm on the board as well within the neighborhood.
Great, and do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you, go ahead.
So if you look at the historic preservation guidelines for our neighborhood, I feel like this falls short of the expectations. I mean, read straight from it, it says the construction of new or replacement structures on these lots will greatly affect the district by either reinforcing or undermining existing historic patterns. New construction should be consistent with existing buildings along the street in terms of height, scale, proportion, rhythm of opening, setbacks, orientation, and spacing. As you can see from the photo of the proposed plan, I agree, it's very bland. Our neighborhood has tons of character and charm within it, and that side view on Pickett Street lacks like really any fundamental design features in our neighborhood. So doing something to break up the mass of it, doing something to add design features that are characteristic to our neighborhood, I think would be beneficial. I think if you go on, it says massing so that it is compatible with existing historic buildings on the block or street. Breaking up uninteresting box-like forms into smaller, varied masses is essential to maintaining the character of the streetscape. So I feel like it's like in our preservation guidelines, and we're not really following the guidelines with the proposed plan. Additionally, neighbors have expressed concerns about the number of folks that are going to be living in the unit. It's currently marketed as 2 bedrooms, 3 bath. We're concerned that the 3rd room could easily turn into a 3rd bedroom. So then you have, at minimum, 3 individuals in each unit. If you have folks over, then that becomes a very condensed environment. We're already having issues with parking both on Gladden and on Haygood Street. There's businesses along Millwood that kind of overflow into the parking on those streets. So we're already having some difficulty with parking. So I don't know if having the parking lot would actually be enough parking for the unit itself. So there's concerns over parking, concerns over emergency vehicles being able to come down those two streetscapes, Gladden and Haygood. So I think from a neighborhood's perspective, we're welcoming of a duplex. We want it to be more representative of our neighborhood. We're looking for something that, like if you look throughout our neighborhood, it's Tudor, Craftsman's, bungalows. We're just looking for something that has a little bit more character than a rectangular box.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak?
Good afternoon.
Hi. Can you please state your name?
Jane Britton.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm here today to express my concerns about the construction. I've lived on Gladden Street for close to 40 years, 2 blocks up from the proposed construction. I have nothing against duplexes, but like my neighbors and some of you, I'm concerned about some of the features in the architecture. What I would suggest is that the front porch, that the columns look more in style with the Craftsman style, and maybe have like brick pillars or solid, Craftsman. And I would also encourage you to drive down Gladden Street because it's very narrow. There's no parking on the eastern side of the street. So directly in front of this property, there would be no parking. So, and I'm not sure about Pickett on that side as far as parking, but there would definitely be a need for off-street parking because there's no real on-street parking available at that site. I'm just going to read some quick prepared remarks, and then the other thing was about the dormer and the roof. The roof line could more reflect the style in the neighborhood. The proposed construction at a length of 75 feet with each unit at 1,200 square feet and including 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms is an intensity of use that's fundamentally out of scale with the surrounding homes. I don't know of any home in Melrose Heights, except maybe the larger, older, single-family homes that has 3 bathrooms. Most of the houses are modest, single-family residents that reflect the character and history of the area. The project also raises serious concerns about increased parking demand and traffic congestion on Gladden Street, which was never designed to handle the type of density with this type of project. And I know a lot of these are zoning issues too. I just think that approving it as is would set a troubling precedent for incompatible infill building that chips away at the historic identity of our community. I respectfully urge the council to revise or reject the proposal as is and instead support development that honors the scale, historic context, and shared values of our neighborhood. So, I really think that if one thing that would solve the scale problem would be to remove the office from the plan and make it a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit, and that would solve the problem of the scale, and maybe put double windows on the Pickett Street side, which are characteristic of a lot of the houses in the neighborhood. They do have the double windows instead of the single ones. But I do think revising it to have 2 bedrooms, 2 baths would be more in keeping with the existing rental properties in the area. And as I've said, I've seen a lot of changes in 40 years, almost 40, and I lived there in the neighborhood as a grad student. So I'm not opposed to rentals. I know we have a housing shortage in Columbia, but all we're asking is that you take into consideration the traffic concerns, the historic character of the neighborhood, and we've seen an increase in property values while preserving the diversity in the neighborhood. And I feel like this project could really contribute to the neighborhood, but the design and the size and scale are really our biggest concerns. So thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public sign up? Hi,
My name's Katie Purnell.
what was it?
Katie Purnell.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding? Thank you.
And I had to write this down so I wouldn't start doing stand-up or something. And some of this is redundant, and people have said it, but I'm going to say it again. My name is Katie Purnell. We have lived in Melrose Heights since 2016. We also own a commercial property on Millwood Avenue between Haygood and Gladden, which houses our orthodontic practice and our recording studio. Concerning the designs for the new build is they do not follow the historic preservation guidelines for new construction. In size and scale, it is not consistent with existing buildings being disproportionately too long compared to other structures with the width that is too narrow compared to its length. And it being positioned on a corner lot only emphasizes its flaw. It can't be hidden between two structures. It's not like it's boom, 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 and these like row houses. And also, the house directly beside it, you're talking about like taking 8 feet away, maybe, to bring it down from 70-something to 60-something. It's still longer than a full 2-story Tudor directly beside it. So it still would just kind of be just a little unusual compared to its neighbors. As pertains to massing, the guidelines state breaking up uninteresting box-like forms into smaller, varied masses is essential to maintaining the character of the streetscape. It clearly states, do not construct single monolithic forms that are not relieved by variations in massing. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we have, is like one long box-like single monolithic form that is totally street visible. I mean, it's not hidden. I mean, so it's almost like its most obvious thing about it is it's one long unchanging thing. I think that it just kind of needs to go back to the drawing board. The predominant style in the district is bungalow. There are many original and historic 1920s and 30s duplex bungalows that exist, several being on Gladden. To design a new construction duplex in the style of these would greatly enhance the beauty and character of the district and has the opportunity to be a role model in city improvement and historic preservation through thoughtful development. In regards to the number of people who will be in this duplex, my greatest concern is an overwhelm of cars. Our streets are narrow, Gladden being one of the most narrow, and can easily become too crowded to pass another car, let alone allow for emergency vehicles to get through. Taking a walk often forces pedestrians into the middle of the road because of the volume of cars parked on the road. The proposed design calls it a 4-bedroom duplex. I don't know if you have the floor plan like directly in front of you, but you can see there's 3 bathrooms per unit on either side. Each unit has an office. That is the exact size of room 2, positioned across from a bathroom, just like the 2nd bedroom is. So if you can see, it's master, then room 2 is across from a bathroom, then the office with a closet is across from a bathroom. So this is a 3rd bedroom. So we're looking at least 6 people in this duplex. So in the redesign, I would request the amount of occupants be actually only 4 to mitigate traffic and parking issues. I live directly beside a triplex. That's original, it's historic, it's adorable. They have a designated parking pad behind the house that can fit all the cars. And the tenants, they just don't use it. It's not as convenient as just parking on the street and walking straight to your door, or they have visitors on a regular basis or whatever, but our street is absolutely covered in cars for that one structure that has designated off-street parking that either is full or is not being used. And then so for the last 8 years, what happens is I have to email the owner who doesn't live in the neighborhood and say, can you please get your tenants to park in the back again? Like, can you, and it's just me, you just end up maintaining parking. Like, yeah, it's like a neighbor, like that's just what happens. In owning our Millwood property, we have had to change our own plans and make reasonable decisions that were not in our best interest.
Just so you know, your time's about out, so if you want to make your final point. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just, I said it. I said all the stuff. There's more is fine, but that's it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, no, they're all.
Justin Williams. I do. This seems very minor compared to the previous project that was presented, but nearly still as valuable. But I'm here as a member of the community, lived there for 10 years, and also an officer on the Historic Melrose Heights Neighborhood Association. I want to make it clear that we certainly want to work with the applicant and the investors that want to continue to build in our neighborhood, but not to belabor some of the points that have already been made, but certainly want to reiterate the fact that we want this property to maintain and consistent, compatible with the existing constructs of the neighborhood and character and streetscape. Certainly parking has been brought up. I know it's a serious issue in that area. And I do support and encourage the panel to consider maybe a design rework, a working session has already been proposed.
I just see him here.